Well, hello everyone. We are going to take a look at some different materials here, starting with some things inside the kit and getting into a little more depth with them. Might help you with your future projects. One of the materials we have in here is this rigid polystyrene foam. The rigid polystyrene foam. This is 2-inch thick stuff. You can buy this in different thicknesses. You see it in Home Depot often being sold as insulation, and it's great as an insulator because it's, we said before, so full of those little pockets of air. And this material is actually made in big sheets, where it's shot out of a hose into a big mold. That's the shape that takes the form of a 4 foot by 8 foot sheet, and and as it comes out of the hose and hits air and reacts to the air, that polystyrene starts to cure and it expands as it hardens. And as it expands, it's got all of these air pockets inside of it. It comes out quick like this, but great material, excellent modeling material, very forgivable, great to learn about safety using different tools with this material first because it's so soft, it's easy to clean up, it's non-toxic, at least as long as we don't burn it. Um, um, it's safe, what I mean, to cut things up and have this stuff on your hands. So some stuff you can't do with this is you can't spray paint this material. If you tried to spray paint this material, the solvent that's on the inside of the can that keeps the spray paint as from getting too thick, the stuff that keeps it a liquid, that solvent in there will break down the surface of the spray paint. So if I took some spray paint and I sprayed it on here, you'd see the foam start to melt in front of you. It would just start to melt away. All right, and so you never want to paint on this with anything except a water-based paint. Acrylic paints would be great, and you could paint an oil-based paint on here as well, but again, not as easy of cleanup and things like that. And so I want to talk about starting to break this material down, because what if you wanted to make a model out of something that was smaller than these 2 inches or thicker than the 2 inches? So one thing we could do with this, if we wanted to stack this up, make it bigger or smaller, would be to stack and glue multiple pieces together. And I'm going to pull something into my window here to show you. Here's a whole stack of this material where each student was given one piece of this, 2 inches thick by 10 inches by 10 inches. And they had a design challenge to create a sculpture with this and see if they could incorporate different things that we were studying in class. At the time, we were studying things like color, like form, um, different things that go with the elements of design, which is a topic you could hear somewhere else. But elements of design like texture and symmetry and balance and shape and size. And students would take this material, and it was also a design challenge we would use. Another purpose of the challenge was to get them to practice some initial tool machine safety that they had just picked up. And you've seen this in some of the safety videos with hot wire styrofoam cutter, and then kids cutting this up with a saw and sanding it with sandpaper and then gluing it, not with hot glue, but with just plain white Elmer's glue. Some great pictures we have of different student projects. And as you look at some of these items, you have to wonder, like, if they got a 2-inch thick piece of material, how did they ever make it into something else that's bigger than that? Uh, and I also wonder, when I look at the sculpture, what problem did it solve? In many cases, their device or the thing they created also had to solve a problem or satisfy a need or a want. It was a full design challenge. Um, but again, the the context for the challenge has been a little bit different depending on which class it was used in and for what purpose. Now, this is a nice example of a piece of foam shaped into a really nice two-dimensional shape of an elephant, but it doesn't have any three-dimensional shape to it other than the fact that it's got a third dimension because it's 2 inches thick. Right? It's nice to see when you can take this foam and not just sculpt 2 dimensions, but 3. Here's the foam being used as a model for a dentist's office, a centerpiece for a holiday table. And in this case, you could tell, multiple pieces of the turkey were cut up, created, and then maybe glued or assembled together separately. You see students marking on their material and cutting it out bigger than they need it to be, especially on that first pass. And then using other tools like files or little saws, the junior hacksaw, and mainly just sandpaper after that to get these things down to their final shape and size. Here's another turkey. You can see this one's got some cutouts in it for as a napkin holder or to hold some plastic forks and spoons and knives. One of the things we would say if you're making a sculpture in that design challenge, the sculpture still had to solve a problem, right? So a sculpture can be something that reminds people of something. It can be a memento, a memorial. It can be used as the top of an award or a trophy. But a sculpture could also be something that is functional and serves some type of purpose. There's an example of two students where their two different ring sculptures came together. Here's one that works as a game. There's a sculpture as a piggy bank. I love this one. It's really simple because it doesn't have multiple parts or components to it, but it's a giant sculpture of a pick that you can hold multiple guitar picks inside of for easy access when you're jamming. Even making the ball here, you'd think, oh, it must be complicated. That from a rectangular piece of material, that ball could be sanded down in just a matter of minutes, starting with some of the lower number sandpaper, like 80 grit, and then working up after that to 120 or 180 to 220. You can kind of stop there, but some students keep going and sand all the way up to 300 grit. Some people even take white Elmer's glue and paint white Elmer's glue over the foam when they're done, as almost as like a little sealant or protective coating before they do their final paint job. You can see students accomplish different textures in the material. I've done this design challenge where I've given them just plastic forks and knives and spoons to work with to see how far they were able to get. Go through a little bit of struggle and then end up working on tools that would actually help perform the job. This is the foam being used in a design challenge to create a desktop organizer. You can see the wallet goes somewhere here, and the cell phone rests somewhere here, and the Apple Watch fits up here. This was a functional sculpture. So behind this layer of foam is a bunch of magnets back here behind the magnets. And what the student can do is come back from wherever they were out, walk in the room, take the earrings off, and literally throw them right at the sculpture. And if you hit the middle of the sunflower, the earrings will stick right to the top. And if not, other things could fall down into the little hole here. And you can see, what's this pink stuff here? What's this other, not the foam, but this stuff that looks like it's slathered on there. Another thing that people do is they'll take, um, and I don't always put this out as a material, but it can work, right? Um, um, Drywall patch, simple drywall patch for fixing up or spackling a hole in the wall or over nail holes, like just a spackle, simple plain spackle, the cheapest stuff you can get, even if you buy it as a powder to mix with water. That's the cheapest way to get it. And if students have imperfections somewhere in their project, or they want to, smooth something out in an additional way, they can go over those areas with some of that spackle, like you can see here, and then after it dries, sand it smooth. It's a nice finished product with that desktop organizer. Some of these things, when they're done being painted, it's almost impossible to tell what they're made of underneath. That would be a great objective after painting, not to be able to tell what's underneath. So these are just some ideas to prime your thinking about how the rigid styrofoam could be used in projects for different types of design challenges. And with that, we come back to our foam.